January the 20th, that means exactly 1 year to the day since Donald Trump was inaugurated, sworn in for his second administration. The biggest mulligan in the history of sports. Donald Trump gets to run it back for a second term. Even after all the shenanigans of 2020, all of the lawfare, the attempted assassinations, he got to be president again, and things are looking very good. Imperfect, and there's a huge threat on the horizon, which is the institutional left, which is getting more nasty, more vitriolic, more unhinged, and more threatening. I'll get into that later on in the show, but today is an important moment to take a second and reflect on what could have happened and what could have gone wrong if this country wasn't in the hands of Donald Trump and this terrific administration. I'm going to be breaking down in the beginning of the show today what I think are some of the biggest victories and things that we should all feel good about. Everyone in this audience today, and people who've held this radio slot before me, people who are in the Breitbart News audience, all of you are a part of this. We all made this possible. Those of you in the booth, including Sean, all of you guys played a major role in making all of these victories happen. And you all feel very proud. Sean is patting himself on the back, and he deserves it. All of you deserve it. Those of you who are here and found this show because you were listening to Charlie Kirk in this time slot before, or perhaps you're listening to my friend and mentor Dennis Prager in this time slot before. If you found this show because you're following me, Alex, editor-in-chief of Breitbart News, all of you earned part of these victories that I'm going to go through today. And I'll start with tariffs, with the Liberation Day tariffs, where we were told that the President of the United States imposing tariffs on the rest of the world was only going to make us hated. There's going to be retaliation. There's going to be inflation. And nothing of the sort happened. We saw some light retaliation from China. We saw some light retaliation from Canada. But dozens, literally dozens of other countries decided, you know what? This is actually, he kind of caught us. The United States has been gotten a raw deal on tariffs for a long time, and we're going to go along with it. And this was headlined by a historic deal with the EU that took place in July during a joint press conference with Ursula von der Leyen, who runs the EU, at Trump Turnberry, one of the most beautiful places in the world, from what I'm to glean. EU committing to purchasing $750 billion in American energy, investing $600 billion in top places where you can invest in America. This ushered in a total reinvestment strategy from the rest of the world to get in the good graces of the United States. The EU deal was just the beginning. Deals followed with the UK, Japan, Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, huge trade blocs throughout the world, Malaysia, Cambodia. Over and over again, new nations came back to the table to try to buy their way into Trump's favor into the American markets. It was just beginning, and we were told this is all going to be inflationary. But was it inflationary? Absolutely not. Nothing of the sort. We're actually seeing inflation drop in a lot of predictors, including what Scott Besson said on my very podcast just last month, that we're going to see inflation go perhaps towards zero heading into the midterms. And if that's the case, then we're going to see a really, really positive development when it comes to our electoral prospects. I got a clip later. I'll share with you the Republicans are doing much better in the polls on issues than we would have thought possible at this point, especially given the energy of the leftist opposition. Next up, most favored nation deals on drug prices. And this is one where it's gotten way too little coverage. But we were paying the highest drug prices in the world. Sometimes a 12th or a 14th or a 15th of what other countries were paying, because socialist systems, they negotiate collectively with drug companies, and the drug companies knew they had us over a barrel. Now, I'm not black and white on pharma. A lot of people who are in chairs like mine, broadcasting audiences like this, think the big pharma is bad all the time. I see a lot of the good big pharma does. I see a lot of the medicines that we have, the miracle of modern medicine. It really is terrific, and part of that means it's a big industry. It's a gold rush. People are trying to wet their beaks. I understand that. But it doesn't mean the American citizen should get worse deals than citizens of other countries that are, in general, worse places to be. I'm not talking about the S-hole countries. I'm talking about just socialist countries that are able to negotiate better deals. Trump is resetting that, and we're just starting to see this. But as of late September, he's announced deals with Pfizer, Amgen, AstraZeneca, Bristol Myers Squibb, Eli Lilly. The list goes on and on and on. Merck. And all these companies are going to be coming to the table to negotiate better deals that's going to drive down your healthcare costs with something as simple as the fact that your drugs are going to be cheaper. So important. I mentioned the investments back in the United States of America, and I think this is another crucial part that's going to be part of economic prosperity and perhaps ushering in a new golden age. The UAE, Qatar, Japan How about all these businesses that are originated in America but are really sort of global entities now? Meta, Apple. Saudi Arabia is investing $600 billion in this country. EU, $600 billion. SoftBank, Oracle, OpenAI, $500 billion. We've got $18 trillion in total of new investments announced by this president just this year alone. Do you want to contrast that with Joe Biden, one of my favorite characters in American life, someone who I've dedicated way too much time of my life towards researching and trying to understand? A mere $1 trillion over 4 years. So think about that. 18 times more investment in the United States. If this was a Democrat president, if this was Barack Obama, there would be more magazine covers with halos around his head than you would have ever thought possible. And these are not necessarily friendly entities, which is what impresses me so much about Trump, among other things. The fact that Donald Trump is getting people who are sometimes really kind of opposed to his agenda. Remember, Meta tried to get the election, rig the election for Joe Biden in 2020. That was really the difference maker, was Mark Zuckerberg and those drop boxes. He invested hundreds of millions of dollars to make sure Joe Biden won. And now he's in a position where he feels like he needs to invest $600 billion. And all of a sudden he sounds very Trumpian when you hear the guy talk. So this economic boom is underway. Nick Gilbertson for us at Breitbart's got a huge story laying out some of the stuff I'm talking about and more. But he talks about a facility in Dearborn, Michigan, where Trump was touting an economic boom, noting that the economy grew at 5.3% GDP in the fourth quarter of last year, of 2025. This is a huge number. And something that any economist wouldn't have thought possible. If you note, whenever I talk about the economy on the show, I've always told you that all the experts undersell Trump's economy. They always predict things are going to go worse than they've actually gone. National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett predicted in November that the Democrat shutdown was costing $15 billion per week. And despite that, we saw that 5.3% growth number. So that number could have been even higher. Under the Biden administration, we saw car prices up 22%, 30% in some states, gasoline up 30 to 50%, hotel rates up a third or more, airfare up a third. But these are all coming down. Every single one of those examples I just gave have all started to come down under this president. That's remarkable things that's going to make America more affordable for people. Wages are outpacing inflation, and that really should be the gold standard. I don't want any inflation. Obviously, inflation, not good. We don't want deflation, so it's got to be a little bit careful. But the main goal is, can we get wages outpacing inflation? And we're going to see this in a big way when it comes April, when we start seeing what will be the biggest amount of tax refunds we've ever seen in this country in history. All of that's coming.